Hello there. I'm Scotty. You're not. Let me just point this out. The 8 o'clock and 3 o'clock reviews are the pre recorded ones. We haven't got any 8 o'clock ones yet. The 13th and the 31st specifically, you will get 8 o'clock reviews because those are extra. Those are pre recorded. All the 3 o'clock ones are ones that I pre recorded for this month. They were scheduled. Anything else? Anything more than 3 o'clock, like this one right now, or the Twilight Zone ones, or any ones I may do in the future, are extra ones. Like this one here for Insidious, The Red Door, the 5th chapter in the Insidious story. Insidious film series, I should say. Apparently there's a spin-off thread. Kumail Nanjiani's in it. I don't know. I'm interested, I guess. I don't know. The story is about Dalton Lambert now going to college. But he and his father, Josh, played once again by Patrick Wilson, start to see that the further is seeping its way back into their lives 9 years after the events of the first film. So when this was announced, I was very confused. Because if you remember from my review of The Last Key, I said in that review that I have a feeling the route they're going to go is that now Tucker and Specs are going to continue this with Elise's niece. And they're going to track down, do stuff. Maybe they're going to pick up from where the second film left off. At this point, I don't think we're ever going to get the resolution to that cliffhanger. Why did you do that if you're never going to give us the resolution? So the idea that I had in my head seems to be going further and further away from being reality. But there is something else that made me scratch my head. Is that when asked if after the second film was released, Patrick Wilson was asked if there were going to be any sequels, and he responded with, I think the Lambert story is done. The Lamberts had suffered enough. Unless, of course, you get to direct the movie, which in case, who cares, right? Yeah, Patrick Wilson directs this. And I'll say this about this movie. His direction is not bad. I think he did a good job with direction and everything and the way it worked. But this movie was far from necessary. I didn't hate it, but it may possibly be the worst one. I can't think of any of the other ones that would put it at the bottom. It just felt like we're doing this to do it, is what it felt like. There are some moments in this that connect back, especially it's been 10 years since the second film. This takes place 9 years after the event of the second film, which took place in 2010. So it is 2019 here in this movie. And, so we start actually with flashback to the second film where Carl hypnotizes Josh and Dalton into forgetting everything, right? And then we cut to 9 years later, and we're at a funeral, which we saw in the trailers. And of course, everybody was right when they said it would be Josh's mom's funeral, which it was. Barbara Hershey's still alive. I had to look up. Did she die in between? No, she's still alive. They just, killed off her character, which I guess it worked. The actress is in her 70s. So at this point, it would work. There's also another theory that I threw out there that I was wrong on. So I saw the trailer for this, and I saw the way that Dalton looks with his hair long, and I hypothesized in my head that he was this skull-painted face demon guy from the first film, the one that, he's got your baby, he's trying to grab the baby. I thought maybe he gets possessed and then goes into the further, he's jumping through. Maybe. But nah, that's not what happens. But interesting. They do the thing, where he goes back, although that doesn't really make sense to me. But we'll get to it. So we have the funeral, and it's revealed that Josh and Renee are now divorced. Hey. Yeah, because that's what we wanted, right? End of the second film, this family is at peace, right? They're going to be happy now. Nope. 9 years have passed, they're divorced now. No, I completely understand that something like that would mess with you. Because after all, only Josh and Dalton's minds were erased. So the other kids, well, the daughter was a baby, which, anyone else know it was a girl? I assume they were all boys. The baby, I guess I didn't realize that the baby was a girl. I don't know. And no, I don't think they retconned it. I guess I never caught it. I'm like, what? That was the baby? It was a girl? I guess I'm just an idiot. I don't know. Wasn't it Kaylee? This is a girl's name. I don't know. But she's not in the daughter's not in this movie much. You get Dalton, obviously. Renee's in there for a little while. Foster has a small part. The younger brother. But the daughter, we get one scene at the funeral, and I don't think we see her again in this movie. But the premise of this movie is Dalton's going to college. Right? And so we basically, Dalton is the main character of this movie, although we do follow Josh. You get that scene from the trailer where he goes in the MRI machine, which I don't know if I'd ever be able to go in one of those. I am mildly claustrophobic. Like, if I go to the elevator and there's more than 3 people in it, I'll take the stairs, or I'll wait for the next one. I'm not gonna, my grandma was worse. My grandma hated going to elevators. If there was 2 people in the elevator, she'd I'll take the stairs. This is a woman who had breathing problems. She would take the stairs. I don't know. I never had to have an MRI before. I had an X-ray on my arm when I was a kid. In my hand, actually. Nothing broken, just bruised. But, MRI, I don't know. I was claustrophobic watching this scene, which is going to be a jump scare. And one thing I have to say is a lot of this is just uneventful. Right? Like, it's building up to a jump scare. Like, at the beginning, when Josh gets in his car, he's texting Dalton to ask him if it's okay if he takes him to college. And so we keep seeing something walking towards the back windshield of the car. And then he goes into frame like this, and when he moves back, it's gone. This is later revealed to be Josh's father, which I didn't realize till I started watching this, that we don't know anything about his dad. His dad, Ben Burton, doesn't have the same last name. So obviously, Lorraine dropped Ben's last name and gave Josh her last name. That doesn't make sense because unless he was still in the womb when his dad did what he did, I'll get to it. I don't know. He did leave a message saying it ends with me, so maybe he didn't know she was pregnant. I don't know. However, I thought we were led to believe that Josh got it from Lorraine because of her encounter with Parker in the hospital in the second film. Wasn't that what we were supposed to be believed? Is that he got it from her? I don't know. I mean, I guess Renee thought it was a ghost in the first two, but So while in college, we meet Dalton's roommate, Chris, who is a girl. And yes, they pointed out, why we thought you were a man because her name's Chris. It's been done before and other stuff, but here they make it like it's offensive for thinking she was a guy. No, it's happened before. Think of the end of Eurotrip. He thought it was pronounced Mike, but it was Mika, which is a girl's name, and in the end, she ends up being his roommate because they thought it was a guy. Chris is also a guy's name, and it's spelt like a guy would spell it, not with a K, with C-R. Ooh. Excuse me. I know a woman named Chris. So, yeah. She spells it with a K. But, he has his art class with his real bitchy art teacher who tells this guy who drew a very good painting, just rip it up, she says. I'm like, wait, what? And he doesn't want to rip it up. I don't blame him. But she's like, sometimes you have to forget the past. And I'm like, yeah, but this thing is a very good painting. But you want to rip him up. You want him to rip it up, excuse me. And Dalton rips out the drawing he did of Lorraine, which is terrible. Then they start to paint, and she has him count down, which is what Carl had him do. By the way, at the funeral, Josh does run into Carl. Do I know you? I know your mom. Now, I was wondering, at the end, there's a cameo at the end of the movie. They got me. I'll be honest, they got me. Right in the feels. But I was thinking, well, maybe, is he still alive? Or is Josh seeing him? But no, Lorraine sees him too. So, no, if Carl is still alive. So I thought, which would make sense. Because the whole thing with the second one was, you're not dead, Carl, get out of here. But, yeah, so he goes into a trance after counting down, right? And he draws a door. It's not red, though. It's just a door, right? Then he hurts his hand, bleeds on it, and he paints it red. And that opens the further, I guess. Josh's part of the story is just getting contacted by this ghost who ends up being his father. And he finds out that his father didn't run off like he was told. Instead, his father ended up in a mental institution for mental problems, but it turns out they weren't mental problems. That's a double twist here. He could also astral project. But they diagnosed it as mental issues, and he committed suicide. A part of me would have wanted Josh's father to be alive and comfort Josh. Hire an older actor instead of someone in the 40s to play a ghost. Hire an older actor. Reveal Carl as his father, man. That'd be interesting. I would have wanted more interactions with that if you're going to do the father thing. Maybe the funeral is happening and there's this strange guy that he doesn't know who it is, and it's revealed that it's his father. And he can still astral project, and he warns them, there's something coming after you and your son. It is not done. You may have, whatever you did, stopped you from accessing the further, but it can still come after you, sort of thing. I also want to comment on this, okay? So Josh, as a kid, gets his memory suppressed, and that lasts basically all his life because he doesn't find out about this stuff until he's in his 40s, right? Or late 30s, I should say. It lasts almost 40 years. But now, they do it again, and it barely lasts 9 years? I could see maybe for Josh, it wouldn't work. Maybe Josh is having these nightmares. But Dalton, it should be suppressed because he was about the same age Josh was, right? By the way, how old was Dalton? Was he 10? Because 19, I guess that works. Or was he 9? So 18. I don't know. But, yeah, so he discovers he can astral project, and I think it's cool. They go to a frat party, and by the way, Harley Keener, what's your name is? Forgot the actor's name. Ty Simpkins, don't ever smile. Or if you do, don't do it with your teeth. Just go. Because he smiles with his teeth. And it looked, I don't know, it was creepy. It was weird. I don't know. We go to this frat party and he sees the ghost of some frat guy that died puking, I guess. We meet Nick the Dick, who's by far the worst character in this movie. He's just, why? Why do we need him? I don't know. All it leads to is Dalton hanging underneath his bed while was it leading to a jump scare? Whatever. Chris eventually moves out to the room above his, and Dalton starts to explore his astral projection. Goes to her room, plays Renee's song on the little low piano thingy that she has, and that he played it earlier. It's a song that Renee wrote for Josh, and that's the, because that's a constant thing in these movies of the Lambert family. And so, she of course blames him, and he's like, what? It was, he was creeping on her or something. Josh gets more clues into what happened to his father. Of course, I already mentioned that stuff. Sorry, I'm messing with this thing. But, so eventually, Josh goes back into the further, but because he starts drawing this picture of someone attacking him with a hammer. As he's talking to Foster says he also has dreams of that, and he finishes painting it, and he realizes it's his dad, because it's when Josh attacked him in the second film. So he goes back through the further, and this was a very confusing thing. You see the point where Josh is about to hit Dalton with the hammer. Now, in the original film, it cut away and showed Dalton reaching his father, and they get out, right? Thinking, okay, that's what happened. But here, Dalton, grown-up Dalton, in the further tackles Josh. He has a scramble with. We see the woman in white, the evil bride, Parker Crane, fight a little bit, but then the lipstick demon takes over Josh's body. Isn't that who it's supposed to be, right? I've heard some say it's Parker Crane, but his spirit was destroyed. I know there's no time in the further, but I feel like that's just a remnant, maybe, of that time. I don't know. I think Wikipedia says this lipstick demon that takes over his body, but you get the whole thing. He's in Lipstick Demon's lair. You hear the song, tiptoe through the window, tiptoe through the tulips with me. That song and everything. Yes, it's a little redundant to be having the same villain again, but it does make sense. That thing, he wasn't destroyed or killed or anything. He's still around, right? Now people say that that's what Elise saw at the end of the second one, which I still see it was something else. They were planning something bigger, but now maybe that spin-off has something to do with that. It's their family or something. Maybe it'll take place in 2010. Maybe not. I don't know. It's about getting a dead child back, so maybe not. But I think if you're doing a spin-off, you gotta do it with Tucker and Specs, not something we don't know. But Josh is forced to go in to save Dalton, so we're doing Josh goes in to save Dalton, and Dalton goes in to save Josh, and now Josh is going to save Dalton again. We're going back and forth. But possessed Dalton attacks Chris. But Josh is able to get to Dalton, and they get out, but can't keep the door closed. So Josh tells Dalton to go ahead, get out, go, leaving himself behind. Dalton gets out, gets his body back. So maybe it was Parker Crane and his buddy if the lipstick demon was chasing him. I don't know. But so at this point, Josh had gone to see Renee, and he finds out the truth from her. And that's when he goes in. And then, so he's at Renee's house. He's living in his mom's house, but he's at Renee's house. So maybe the divorce hasn't been too long. But, so, Dutton goes back, and Josh is holding this door shut. And then black goop starts to come down. He goes, paint. Dalton's painting over the door to shut it. Isn't that the most dumbest fucking way to close the door? Like, oh, they literally say it's closed now because he painted over it. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. If you're still able to go into the further, if you're still able to astral project, you can go into the further. And even there's a post-credit scene that shows that the door is still open. Hold on a minute. Yeah, I'm back. Blow my nose. But yeah, we get wrap-ups then, right? Josh leaves his wife's house. She says, you know what? Why don't you come earlier to pick up the kids next time? Have dinner with us. He goes, I'd like that. He goes to leave, and we hear a voice talking to Josh. It's a very familiar voice. It's Elise. And I don't know why, but I was fine when the voice happened. But when they actually showed her, like earlier in the film, Chris pulls up this website that is Tucker and Speck's website, and they're talking about stuff, and he finds a clip of Elise talking to a school. At some point, she did that. About astral projection. So, yeah. Now here, she is there talking to Josh. It's still ghost, but her spirit, whatever. I don't know why I teared up a little bit. I don't know, this moment just, because you got to think about this, right? This is the first moment, really, outside of the further that Dave talked since her death. Like, there in the further, yeah, fine, but here, he doesn't really remember her. She's like, I know you. I knew your mother. And that's what made me think, was Carl dead too? But no, because Renee saw him. But there's just a nice little conversation. I liked it. And then we go back to the dorm room where Dalton has painted a picture Josh pulling him out of the further, carrying him from the first film. So they kind of try to get that whole touchy-feely thing, being 10 years since the first film. 10 years since the second film, 13 since the first, to kind of get that nostalgia factor from those movies. And to that end, it works. I just feel like maybe we needed something that was scary. This all seems very sentimental. There's even some of the dark moments where it's just like, like when they went to the frat party, I was sitting here going, okay, what are we doing? Right? Because it's like, then he had a vomit thing. Okay. Because they mentioned there was this, I'm like, okay, are we going to see that ghost? And we saw it. And that happened. And I called some jump scares, like, when he's underneath the bed. I'm like, ghost's going to be up there. Sure enough, ghost pops out, pukes all over him. Obvious jump scares are obvious, but I don't think this is bad. I don't think there are no bad Insidious movies. I'll tell you that much. This is getting a middle of the road for me. I think it's decently done, but I do think that perhaps Patrick Wilson's comment when being asked after the second film is that the Lambert story was done and should have stayed done after the second film. When it just happens more often than not with sequels. When you go back, You have to change things to make the situation worse so that we can have a film. So here, you had the happy ending, and now it's like, nope, no happy ending. They're divorced. The kids don't really care for Josh, and now this brings them back together again. But if we didn't do this movie, they would still be back together. For all we know, they were a happy family. But now you have to do a sequel that changes that. And that happens in sequels more often than not to do that. And that's what kind of bugged me. As soon as they showed they were divorced, I'm like, oh no, we're doing this? They're divorced? Really? They're happy in the last film. Not divorced. Why? Why do they have to be divorced? Why? And I understand that something like this would kind of, eat away at a relationship and a family. Sure. But I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Insidious The Red Door? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.